In this video, I will learn you how to knit Intarsia for your colorwork projects. Intarsia is a colorwork technique where you knit a shape of color within another color. So the different colors are more isolated on parts of the project. And this is different from Fair Isle because the colors are now more isolated in a blob and you're not carrying your color floats around the back of the work. So this video will show Intarsia knit back and forth flat, which you can use on, for example, a cardigan or a scarf, or even on a sweater before you have gathered in the round. So if you are knitting colorwork in the round instead, for example, on a raglan sweater or a beanie, I suggest that you check out the other video we have on our page for Intarsia knitting in the round. So Intarsia knitting is best for project with groups of color, such as this color chart and even this color chart. You have the colors more in groups here, even though there are many. And if your colorwork chart looks something like this, where you only have one color and it's on one part of the project, but it's more spread out, I would suggest you check the video on slip knitting on our channel. And if your colorwork chart looks something like this, you should check out the video on Fair Isle knitting. And if you have a color chart looking something like this, you could use a combination of Fair Isle knitting for these parts here and Intarsia for this yellow part right here. Let's see how to knit Intarsia back and forth on flat projects. I am in this video simply following this heart-shaped color chart here. And when we knit color charts, every square on the chart is one stitch on the needle. So we will normally read from right towards the left as we knit from right to left. And when we purl back, we will read from the left side to the right side as we purl from here to here. If you are creating a garment that is knitted top down, for example, a cardigan or a sweater, and you want this heart to be the correct way when you knit it, you would have to turn the chart around and start here as you knit from here to here. But in this video, I'll just use this chart for a simple demonstration. So let's get started. I am now going to place my first red stitch here. So I take my red yarn like this, and when I attach it, I'm gonna attach it from the front like this. And then I'm gonna take the old color over the new color like this, and then simply start knitting. And this tail here I will weave in at the end when I'm done with the color work, where I simply just push it through and sew it fast on the back as a normal tail. So what is special about Intarsia is that I will have more threads on the needle than Fair Isle knitting, because I will now attach a new white yarn on the other side of my red stitch here. So again, I will attach it from the front. I will take my old yarn to the left, place the white on top, twist it, and simply start knitting like so. Then I will tighten up and knit till the end. I'm now gonna do from here to the right with purling. I will purl with a white color until one stitch before my last colorwork stitch here, and I will take my old yarn to the left, pick up the new yarn from below, place it over so I can start knitting with. I will knit 3 stitches of this red. I will then place it to the left, pick up the correct yarn above, and then keep working. Now, as you can see here, I've started our color work and it's kind of messy. So we just want to tighten up these stitches here and keep going. So I will knit until one stitch before my last color work, because it is a one stitch diagonal like this. I'll take my working yarn, old yarn, to the left and pick up the new yarn from below. Then just knit with that. I'm gonna do 5 stitches here, and then I simply again put my old yarn to the left, pick up the correct yarn here from below, and keep knitting with that. And then again I put my old yarn to the left, pick up the new yarn from below like this, and just keep knitting. Then I'm going to knit so, one more stitch on each side. And I'm going to take my old yarn to the left, my new yarn from this side here, don't pick this one, this right here, up above, and just work with that. So as you see here, we have worked a couple of rows, and it's important that you tighten, take a look on your work, tighten and drag. So you just keep working like that, and I'll come back and show you this part right here. I have now worked a couple more rows, and as you can see here on the back, you don't have any floats going from this side to this side as you do in fair knitting, but the floats are instead going and following the shape towards the sides here. What is important is that you don't tighten them a lot, because that will mess up your knitting. You can see here when I have tightened it that this stitch right here is almost gone, and the color work will tug inwards like this. It would scrunch and not be as pretty. But at the same time, if you have too big, too loose floats like this, then our stitches would be big and uneven, which is not good either. So we don't want that. So try to keep the tension even, and you can also just go over and check your tensions as you knit like that. When you can see that the yarn tangles up quite a bit, there are tools to prevent this tangling. They're called bobbins, where you simply just wind a bunch of yarn around a small gadget, and then instead of moving around a whole skein, you just move around the small bobbin. You can, of course, also just wind up a smaller bit of yarn than the entire skein. You will use the same technique with twisting the yarn in the back for both diagonals going outwards, stitches on top of each other, and diagonals going inwards. You simply just follow the chart and knit the stitch in the color that the chart is showing. When you are working in area like this, I would do white until here, then have the red yarn here. So you twist them, you knit the red, and then you put new white yarn on this part, and then you put new red yarn on this part. So you will have many more tails than you already have, but that is to get the best and most even tension. And then you simply use the same technique. So if you get the hang of this technique, you can do almost anything with Intarsia, any type of patterns. So for example, if we go back to this pattern right here, you would have own tails of yarn with each color, and then you would work each row like this and go over all colors. But it's the same logic as we just did here, and that is the technique for Intarsia, working back and forth. Samme det. Another thing to keep in mind is that when you're done with the color work, so when you are all the way on the top here and going back to only knitting with the white, you still would need to twist the yarns like so, and keep knitting with this one at the top here, just to lock the red yarn in place one final time. So I would knit until here, and then I would do as normal, put the old yarn here, new yarn up here, except that this is not my new yarn anymore because I'm only doing white. So I would pick up the white yarn again and keep knitting forward with that. And that just locks the red yarn in place back here, so it's easier to sew in later and you don't get this gap between the stitches here later. And that's it. That is how you knit Intarsia back and forth using just a simple twisting at each end and having new tails of yarn for each part.